This segment brought to you by Sure Crop, liquid crop nutrition delivered right to your farm.
We're back. Now Duane talks with Brian Rees about which bluestem species are beneficial to grazing pastures.
Duane Toews joining us once again here on Ag AM in Kansas, and an opportunity to catch up with Brian Rees, ag agent in Lyon County with K-State Research and Extension. Brian recently had a chance to talk with producers about an invasive species that's becoming a bigger issue in the Flint Hills, Old World bluestem. Can you give us a little better definition of what that entails?
Well, that was one of the questions today that really got a little bit concerning, was that there was confusion between the native bluestem species that are here in the Flint Hills versus the Old World bluestems that originated in Europe, Eastern Europe, Asia, North Africa. And that is the one that is tending to come into this part of the country and become an invasive species, causing some issues growing into the native regions. It is a warm season grass. It is not technically a bluestem, but that's the name. The two that are generally considered Old World bluestems are Caucasian bluestem and yellow bluestem. There are some very distinguishing characteristics, but by and large, they are generally shorter statured. They are a little bit earlier maturing. They tend to have much less feed value, much poorer palatability. In general, they will eat them, but they would prefer to do the native species more. One of the improved varieties of the yellow bluestems would have been King Ranch bluestem, and that was one that had been actually planted in other parts of the country. And I understand there are some places within the state of Kansas that it is being cultivated. Concerning the Flint Hills, because again, we are blessed in the Flint Hills with the native warm season grasses. Cattle do very, very well on them. Not the situation with the Old World bluestems, and it's not going to be very easy to try and control.
That leads to the next question, Brian. When you think about control, you referenced in your presentation, it's a little bit different when you have an invasive grass species versus a broadleaf.
That's exactly right. And one of the other invasive species that we deal with here in the Flint Hills region is Sericea lespedeza. It's really an issue here in the Flint Hills, but it is a planted forage in other parts of the country. And so consequently, there hasn't been a whole lot of research dollars based on the chemical companies to develop herbicides to go ahead and work on that. But that is a broadleaf species in a grass, as opposed to trying to take a warm season grass out of a warm season grass. Presents some issues. A couple of herbicides that work basically are generally considered to be almost bare ground treatments, one of them being glyphosate or Roundup is the common trade name. Another one is imazapyr, which is a common trade name of Arsenal. And at the labeled rates and at the recommended rates, the imazapyr allows some of the warm season grass species, especially the native bluestem species, some survivability. Roundup is pretty much if it's green, it'll kill it.
We think about going back to why it's an issue, and you referenced the palatability and nutritional value certainly is subpart of what we expect out of our big and little bluestem, Cytosgrama, and some of those.
That's exactly right, and said it before here on the spot, the native warm season grasses that we've been blessed with here in this part of the country, the big blue, little blue, a little bit of the little blue, all of a sudden you end up with the Indian grass, switchgrass, some of the side oats, even to the extent of some of the eastern gamma grass that normally you don't find in the grazed pastures, simply because the cattle will selectively graze it out. Those things are tremendously more palatable than the Old World bluestems, and so consequently we want to do everything we can to preserve the population of the native species and not let them be overrun by the invasive species.
Our thanks to Brian joining us here on Ag AM in Kansas. Jamie, we'll send it back to you.
Thanks, Duane. Come back after the break for this week's Kansas Farm Bureau update.